Well, hey everybody. Welcome to the Simplified Church podcast. That felt very official, didn't it? So,
It did.
hello everybody. Yeah. I don't know. It's good to be here, man. It's good to be hanging out with you. I'm excited that we get to have this conversation today. I feel like we say that every week, and each week I'm telling the truth. And I know you are, because I do love these conversations that we get to have. So meaningful, and it's an opportunity to hopefully make a difference and an impact in the kingdom in a way that is unique, a little different. So it's always exciting to be able to do this.
Sure.
Man, today we're getting to kick off a two-part series. We're going to be talking about how to lead from the second chair. A couple of weeks, we're going to just walk through the realities and the difficulties, and I don't know, some of those kind of bizarre facts that exist around leading from the second chair or a third chair when you realize that there's opportunities to lead up and lead around you and what that looks like. And so this is a great two-part series, couple episodes to send to your friends that are in those particular seats that could just use some encouragement, use a little help. And we could all use a little help from our friends. I don't know about you, Greg. I know I could, but I think it could be pretty fun. But before we get into all of that goodness, we each week on this show, we take just a couple of minutes and catch up with each other. And I know that you love our kind of endearing stories and tales. It makes you feel like you're sitting right here with us on the front porch, sipping on some sweet tea. You know, I don't know. I've locked into some bizarre Southern charm today. I don't know where it's coming from, but I'm enjoying it either way. But Greg, looking good, man. You're all buttoned up, official. Is this your official at-home watch party outfit for the SBC? You know?
Well,
Do you throw a tie on during the intermissions?
I do.
Gotcha.
do.
I figured.
Well, I figure since I can't be there in person, that I should at least dress the part
I like it.
of the good Baptist. But let's be real. I'm a good Reformed Baptist. So realistically, if it wasn't hotter than blue blazes out, I really should be in a flannel shirt.
That's true.
And some brown boots.
Yep.
Rocking a backpack.
Yeah. 100% with some sort of like skull cap on.
Yeah, a beanie. Yeah.
Yes.
Sweating like you would not believe. But,
Yes.
But yeah, you know that there are brothers in Indy right now who, like, we just called out their exact fit.
Yes.
For the day, and it's 138 degrees.
Yeah. Just lumberjacks walking around looking for a chopping mall.
That's right.
Yeah, 100%. It is, man. I want what is the temperature in Indy? Is it warm today?
I have no idea, but it's
I don't
hot
either.
here. It's like 90 here today. So
90 degrees.
I think so. Yeah, it's hot.
Do you think people wear shorts to the SBC, like to the actual meetings?
Some do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just questioning, like, is somebody rocking like the to stay in the look? Are they rocking the flannel or the plaid with like the cargo shorts?
Now, I think that's appropriate.
And the boots.
Yeah, very much like you can't tell if this guy is like a youth pastor or an over-the-road truck driver.
Yeah.
You can't tell. Yeah, I like that. I think I think you can get away with that.
I think the biggest thing is these guys are busting out these jackets that they haven't put on since last year.
Yep.
Oh, it still fits. Good.
Yeah, barely, but it still fits. Yeah, man. You haven't put on that.
And we can talk about SBCers because I is one and you were one.
Yeah.
So we can talk about them. It's okay.
Yeah, and I still love them very much. Very much. Listen, man, when I became Southern Baptist, I, like everybody else, I put on my Southern Baptist 50, like you find it and you wear it. So
your casserole dish,
man, they like to eat, bro. They like to eat everything, which, hey, I'm not complaining. But yeah, SBC is going on. Lots of stuff happening with our brothers and sisters in that space, which, I have a strong feeling that that's going to be a far more productive meeting than the folks over at the United Methodist Church and their annual meeting they had recently that just ended in, I don't know, an absolute disaster. So God bless them. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm hopeful. Yeah. That it's going to be really, really good. And that it's going to position us to continue to make some big kingdom impact. So yeah, they commissioned several new international missionaries this morning,
That's
which
great.
one of my favorite things about what we do.
Yeah.
Because I don't know about your church, but I know that most churches that are like mine, we couldn't, on our own say, hey, we have 5,000 missionaries around the globe
Oh
that
man.
that we support. And that are pushing back lostness. Like if we were independently doing this, we might, hey, we help to support
Yes.
one or two families.
Yeah.
And so yeah, when we get to see new missionaries be commissioned and then sending them out,
That's special.
that's it is, and that's what makes us who we are. And I'm so grateful for that.
Yeah, the cooperative nature of the Southern Baptist Church, in and of itself is, it's just very special. So
For sure.
no one's going to argue that. And if they do, go see Greg. He'll show you what's up. That's right, man. He'll get you the business. But no, man, it's good, dude. It's summertime's in full swing, and I'm looking forward to having this conversation because I've spent I had plenty of years in ministry where I sat in a second seat, sometimes even a third seat, and sometimes just getting to pull a stool up into the room,
Right.
and not really having any seat of my own. And I know that you can empathize with that. You've definitely been in those seats before too, and there are times where we recognize a need to lead from those seats. And it's not just leading and impacting the ministries that we are directly responsible for or have direct oversight over, but it's this reality of leading up. And leading up can be very difficult when you're in that space. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. It can be really hard to know how to lead up.
Yeah.
And when to lead up. Like leading down the org chart is natural.
Yes.
And something that we don't have to work at. But being able to lead up and out while also leading down is a dance, to be sure.
Yeah. Feels like
and
a fine, it does feel like a fine line to walk,
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it's something that you just,
yeah.
it can be nerve-wracking. But when you can get it right,
Yes.
it's a game changer. It really is.
Yeah, I'm curious on, for a lot of guys that are in the seat where they have they're the only lead guy, or they are the lead guy, they're the one of two maybe people on staff, and they find themselves having to lead up to the those in authority over them, and then leading down with maybe staff or volunteers that are under them. And so there are a lot of folks that you don't have to necessarily have a really deep org chart in order to be able to feel this pressure. And I'm curious for a lot of those guys, because that was such a long time ago for me. But even just trying to think through, how do you balance that? How do you walk that fine line? But I think what would be helpful for us is just even kind of drawing on some past experiences, or even for you, current experience. But when you think about from your chair, and you're kind of brought into to leadership meetings and to bring a voice and to contribute. What have you found works really well for you in terms of people responding and hearing from you and feeling like that your voice matters?
Yeah, I think it, at least in part, comes from being a good reader of the room.
Yeah, that's big.
So yeah, you might call it room reading, you might call it discernment, you might call it, any number of things. But I think when you are able to walk in and you're able to see, okay, here is where I'm needed in this moment. And you can then step into that space. It allows you the opportunities then to speak in such a way that you can be heard,
Mhm.
and where you bring value.
Mm.
And I think some of it often comes from asking good questions and trying to ensure that the way in which you posture it is one of saying, I don't know that this is the right answer, but
Okay.
here is what I'm hearing you say, and I want to make sure that I'm hearing you rightly. And then, okay, so here are some more questions that I have.
Yeah, that's
And being
good,
able to
man.
come at it from that perspective tends to get people drawn in, and they know that you really aren't necessarily trying to like manipulate or steamroll them to a decision that you have already kind of worked out in your mind and said, okay, here's where I think we need to get. So how do we get there?
Right.
But instead being able to say, okay, so I hear what you're saying. I have a couple of questions because I want to more deeply understand, and I want you to think deeply about what you're aiming for us to do. And as the second chair leader, being able to do that, especially in the early days, allows for you then, the longer that you're in that second seat in your church, you're able to then step in more often and faster at the, all right, here's where I think we need to go based on what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing just in conversation and from teams and, you know, whatever. Here's where I think we need to go. And in order for us to get there, have we thought about this and this and this?
Yeah.
And some of that falls into specifically the second chair spot when it's like either, you know, your title is associate pastor, but it's not followed by any description,
Right.
or it's executive pastor, or like in my context, it's admin. Like when it's that kind of thing, second chair, um, the expectation kind of shifts.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can, you know, not right out to shoot, but after having some time equity in it, you can lead up more easily and efficiently because so much does fall already naturally to that role. I think where it becomes difficult is when you're initially starting it out and when it's not clearly defined.
Oh, yeah.
You know, when it's well, I'm the youth guy,
Yeah.
or I'm the worship guy, or I'm the discipleship director, or, you know, whatever. But it's not, on the one hand, the role is clearly defined as far as responsibility, but organizationally it is unclear. Like, where do I fall leadership wise?
Yeah.
It can be harder to lead up, but I think all of that is in relational equity and capital. How
Yeah.
have you developed those relationships with those that are your leaders? How have you developed that? And is that relationship in such a place that you can lead up? And I think that's a two-way street question
Hmm.
of, hey, you know, senior leader, are you allowing for your second chair leader or your third chair leader or whoever, are you allowing for other people to lead up? And are you expecting them to?
Yeah. That's an important question, man.
Because if it can be the double-edged sword, you can be too strong in the second chair. And sometimes I am incredibly guilty of that whenever my mouth doesn't, you know, allow for my brain to connect entirely, and I say something like, "That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard."
Wait, I said that out loud.
I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry.
But then other moments when everybody's turning and looking and they're expecting me to lead.
Right.
And so figuring that out, and it's not always easy, and you're going to fail at it. At least if you're like me, you're going to fail at it more times, or at least it's going to feel like you've failed at it more times when you walk out of a meeting and out of oh man, that was a home run.
Yes. Yeah, those are generally fewer and far between. Yeah. But I think what I've heard, if I can borrow one of your tools here, what I've heard you say, and I think is wildly helpful, is walking into those opportunities with a sense of humility, a desire to ask clarifying questions, and to present in such a way that you're not trying to push an agenda or force people to a conclusion that they're not ready for, but rather to say, I'm committed to this journey. And part of that is just being the person in the room who's committed to asking those questions and to remaining humble about it, saying that, like, I may not have the answer here, but here are some things that we can consider. I think that's really, really helpful, man. And I think that's helpful for regardless of where you sit organizationally, if you're given the opportunity to lead up, because sometimes you're not. Like, sometimes it's not clear, but you feel a sense of responsibility, and sometimes you feel a sense of duty to, like, man, I just feel like I got to kind of say something here. I feel like I got to kind of speak into this a little bit. And that takes a lot of courage, takes a lot of bravery, because it's not always so clearly defined where you're unsure of that relationship. And due to your point, as a senior leader, you should be letting people know, I have an open door. If you want to talk more about this, we can talk more about this. If you're uncertain as to why, it may not change our direction. It may not change our decision. But man, if you work here, you're certainly entitled to an explanation, And I think there's nothing wrong with, guys recognizing that they may not have that. They may not have that level of clarity. So sometimes taking the position of, I'm going to become the person who just asks clarifying questions, asks really good questions, and remains humble and just says, like, hey, man, if you want to talk more about that, I'm here. I think just making yourself available is a great way to lead from that second chair. Because over time, I think people will respond positively to that. Yeah.
100%. And I think the other piece that comes with it, and I had to learn this the hard way. What we have to do in the second chair, in the third chair, wherever we sit, our objective has to be, okay, this is where we're going. This is where our senior leaders says we're going this way. We can have the conversations. We can say, hey, help me understand this. Hey, I'm still, like, I'm wanting to go with you, but I'm not there yet. Help me see how these pieces come together. Like, that's always okay. But as soon as those doors open up and the meeting is over and we're presenting it to the body, my job is to go back into that room when we do follow-ups and say, I'm for this.
Yep.
I want to serve this and serve you well. So how do I do that? Like, what do I bring to the table that helps accomplish this objective, and how do I get behind it and champion it? Because when I can have the honest conversation and say, I'm not sure this is a great idea, and I just don't know, but I'm going to back the play.
Right.
And you do it, and you run at it, and it's not halfway. It's all in. You're on board, because that's what is the next step that your team is taking. That's where you get that equity.
Oh,
to
yeah,
then
man.
be able to come back and ask hard questions and say, I think we missed it. And then, but I'm on board, and I'm going to back this play because it's where you think we need to go, and I'm on the team.
Yeah, there has to be, man. Gosh, there has to be a level of trust that's earned from being able to speak into that. And if you're the kind of person that speaks into something, and then when it goes really well, you're standing in line to get your attaboys and your little cut of the credit. And if it goes really bad, then you're like, I told them, man, ain't nobody listen to me, man. If I was been in that meeting, somebody said something. So I told them I think it was a good idea, but they went ahead with it anyway. And all of a sudden you try to distance yourself in the midst of any sort of failure so you don't get any of that up on you. And you don't I don't care who you think you are or how trusted your relationships are. That will find you.
Yep.
It finds you every time. And as soon as people get wind that you're not the kind of person that will back the play, right or wrong, barring, as long as it's nothing like immoral or terrible, don't misconstrue what we're saying. Like no one's saying that let's hide this shameful secret. Are we all in on this? Like, no, but this, we're not hiding a body. You know what I mean? Like
we're going to start a fourth service on Sunday morning at 11:29.
Right.
Between our other 3 services, and it's going to be awful, but you know what? That's what we're doing. So let's go do it. It's that kind of thing.
It's that kind of thing.
And then being able to walk away from that meeting and say, you know what? We're going to make this the best 11:29 service.
Yep. Like they'll be writing books about this, like other churches are going to be doing this before you know it. That's what we're talking about.
And let's just be real. All right. So sidebar, we weren't trying to go here, but I just got to go here for a minute. This does not mean that you can't go back in your office and like, oh my gosh, this is are we really doing this? And have to wrestle through it.
Right.
Like this does not I'm not saying that doesn't happen. Now, if my walls could talk,
yeah.
People already don't know because they'll see me walking around the building. They don't know. I always have my AirPods in just so they don't know. Is he on the phone or is he talking to himself?
Right.
But having those conversations in my mind about, are we doing this? Or, did it really come out that way? Or did that play out how I hoped it would? Did I ask the question the right way? All of those things, that's totally normal.
Yes.
Don't feel like that makes you a bad person when you're wrestling with some of that.
Yeah. And sometimes you have to be honest about that. You need to wrestle with something for a little bit.
Yeah. And if your team can't wrestle through things, you have a problem.
Yeah.
You need to be able to wrestle with things. And if, wherever you sit in the org, if there aren't people who are pushing a little, you don't have the right people on your team.
Yeah. You ain't kidding, man.
Who are giving that back and forth push and pull of, hey, did you, and being able to walk that out and to have those moments of wrestling, and even sometimes being honest enough with the larger body of the church to say, church, we've been wrestling with this, but here's what we think is best. And so here's what we're going to do.
Yep.
That level of honesty and realness is incredibly important.
Yeah, especially in an age where there's already so much institutional distrust to begin with.
Exactly. And so, being able to lead in both directions is huge. It all comes down to so much in ministry, it comes down to relationships.
Yeah.
And I've found that most people, if you ask them for permission, they're gonna let you.
Right.
If you say, hey, I have some hard questions. Can I ask just a couple of things? Would that be okay? They're gonna be okay. It might not be comfortable.
Right.
But they're gonna be okay. And they're gonna probably on the backside appreciate it.
Yeah. They're definitely gonna respect the manner at which you came at them. That goes a long way to be able to just say, hey, I just want to talk through this a bit. I've got a couple just they're probably hard questions, but I just need to get some more clarity. And I think through all of it, that's probably for me the biggest takeaway in at times where I've desired to lead up or have been given opportunities to over the years, is to position myself in a place of curiosity. I think curiosity is an undervalued character trait that we don't see a lot in ministry anymore. I think everybody in ministry, by and large, is on a quest for what's the next right thing to do, what's the best answer, and how do we go. And I think that sometimes just taking a position of curiosity where we're asking questions and we're trying to clarify a bit better, we're trying to help people navigate the what ifs, where that comes from, looking for more data. I think sometimes that role is it can be very helpful in leading up, because you're able to ask some questions that maybe people didn't think about. And all that's going to do is bring greater clarity to the overall decision that you're trying to make. And so, man, I really appreciate your insight on this, dude. I think I think those are super, super helpful. And to your point, which is probably, I don't know, probably something we shouldn't miss in the midst of this conversation, is as much as we want to help folks in that second and third chair lead up, lead guys and senior leaders need to be at a place where they're opening channels of dialogue and they're extending invitations for folks to come and have those conversations, because you've got more depth on your bench than you know.
You do, and like it's one thing that I'm working on, and I'm not there yet. But I'm working on doing my best going, and I've been working on it for the last 6, 8, 9 months, something like that, of saying to my key volunteers and my key leaders in my teams to say, you don't need to ask me that question. You can make that decision. You're capable. I trust your judgment. And then coming alongside them when they kill it, and they not only make the right decision, but it goes off just like it was supposed to, going back around and saying, yeah, good job. You did exactly what we needed you to do in that moment.
Yeah.
Where it gives them then that opportunity to come back and lead up to me and say, hey, I saw that this was a need, saw this potential issue. Hey, here are 2 or 3 things. What do you think? And allowing for them to see that, and then to be able to model for them. Okay, yeah, I think you're on the right track. What about this? Like, did you think about this question? Run that down and see what happens. And where we are empowering that conversation, I think is huge, because we should be leading both directions all the time.
Yeah.
Especially in the second chair.
Oh man.
Like you're leading both ways. And if you're not, there's a problem, and it's you.
Man.
And I'm saying that as much back to me as to anybody.
I love it, man. Greg's just out here just firing off rounds, dude. Just picking us off left and right. But man, that is such critical wisdom. And I'm so thankful we get to have this conversation, because these are pivotal ministry roles that are taking place in churches all across the country. And there are just so many folks that feel hamstrung or don't feel like they have the ability to speak openly or honestly, or don't even know if they have permission or the space or the equity to be able to be transparent and to speak into major decisions or just how to go about it. And that's just, it's not a skill that like you're taught in seminary. It's not something you pick up at Bible college. Like it's a leadership skill that you have to kind of develop over time. It's a muscle you have to really stretch and grow. But it is such an important one. And I mean, just like we said at the beginning, it's a fine line, and it's an important dance to learn how to dance. But I think your wisdom on this has been invaluable. I'm excited to be able to continue in this conversation. Next week we'll be able to maybe look at it from a different perspective and kind of see how we can lead from the second chair, because there's obviously so much more to be said. But we want to keep this this portion of the conversation a little more accessible for you. But as always, we were rooting for you, pastors and leaders. We're so thankful for all the work and ministry and energy that you put in to serving your people right there in your everyday lives and in your everyday spaces. We're just so proud of you, and we're so excited for what God is doing in your churches. And we'd love to connect with you. As always, head over to our website, simplifiedchurch.com. You can email us, podcast@simplifiedchurch.com. Connect with us on social media. And, man, some of you are in that position where you're trying to figure out how to help lead, and you're coming into budget season, and you're making a lot of decisions about other people's ministries and how to lead up and lead down and lead around and make sure everybody's got enough scratch to get their ministry done. We would love to be able to help have that conversation with you at simplifiedchurch.com. We'd love to do a demo call with you and tell you how we can help outsource some of the overwhelming nature that comes from building out your budgets. But otherwise, man, we're praying for you, pastors and leaders. Thanks for hanging out with us, and we'll talk to you soon.